I don't care what Stephen A. Smith does. I don't care what Gavin Newsom does.
Yeah.
I don't care.
So you're rigid. You're not changing anything.
Sam Seder makes his way back to the PBD podcast, where he's known to kick some serious ass. No matter who you agree with going into it, Sam Seder always seems to get the best of Patrick Bet-David and his entire crew. And in this clip, we're going to focus on how the PBD crew loves the idea of popularity and team politics more than anything else. Now, we're only going to focus on this small piece of the whole podcast. We'll cover their other discussions on separate videos. They start off trying to focus on Stephen A. Smith, who's a conservative, even if he calls himself a Democrat, which from his own words, when asked what will be his focus as president, he said the border and making sure Capitol is happy. Now, you don't have to be a left-winger to be a Democrat, but if your main focus is making sure the moneyed interest is happy and pushing border propaganda, then the actual home for those politics is the Republican Party.
Can you play the clip with Stephen A. Smith, who has been a staunch supporter of the Democratic Party for decades, and now Stephen A. Smith is being called as a member of MAGA? Rob, we can't play the whole thing. Can you go to the main part? Do you know the main part or no?
I do. Right after he reads this is when he responds.
Okay, let's see what he says, Rob. Go for it.
This Owens, Sean Hannity, and other prominent voices from the right on this podcast as reasons for his premise. Here's a portion of what he wrote on MSNBC.com in an article titled ESPN Stephen A. Smith is a megaphone for MAGA propaganda. Jones says, quote, Stephen A. Smith's embrace of the MAGA movement and its influencers has only continued. In recent days, for example, he has spoken with right-wing commentators Ben Shapiro, Megyn Kelly, and Bill O'Reilly. You might be thinking that these were adversarial chats between a left-leaning centrist and a conservative. But to adroit listeners, they can come across more as conservatives in friendly discussion than anything else. Smith's overt politicism seems to fly in the face of ESPN's apparent effort in recent years to deter some of its talent from speaking on controversial political matters. Either way, the network's most recognizable host is now regularly platforming MAGA propaganda at will, end quote. Now, my team reached out to Jones to have a discussion about the article. I wanted to invite him on the show to talk with me one-on-one personally. I hope we get the opportunity to have that dialogue. He was busy. He didn't avoid the call or anything like that. There was no comment or anything like that. He didn't say anything. He was just very, very busy. We called it the last minute. No shade on him. That's why it didn't happen. But in the meantime, let me express to you what I think about what he wrote. I think that's the exact problem with the left. You see, if I don't agree with you, I must be MAGA. It must be the case. I'm platforming MAGA propaganda. Is that so? I don't view it that way. First of all, even though I lean left, particularly with how I vote with presidential elections.
Let's stop real quick. He does not lean left. Voting Democrat does not mean left wing. Let's continue.
I want to emphasize that I've always been a centrist my entire life. I've never once described myself as a Democrat or a Republican. I'm a centrist. I'm a moderate. I don't trust either side. I'm not on one side or the other, hook, line, or sinker. You will see images or you'll hear me rattle off names of people who've been on this show. Yes, you see Ben Shapiro there. Yes, you see Bill O'Reilly there. Yes, I was recently on Megyn Kelly's show. Did you know I'm on News Nation with Chris Cuomo every week? Did you know that I just appeared with Jake Tapper on CNN? Do you know I've been on MSNBC on several occasions? Do you know?
You can pause.
Yes, Sean.
So, do you know what happens when a guy like Stephen A. Smith, he said he's always voted left when it comes down to presidential candidates that he has. So he's not a guy that voted for Trump, right? When a guy like him comes out and he says, what the hell is going on with the Democratic Party?
Is that what he's saying there?
Oh, he said it many. You must not follow what he says because he has said that nonstop the last 2 months, 3 months.
No, I don't follow what he says.
You should. He's actually very good. He's reasonable. It would be good for you to watch. I like his approach. I think he's a...
Do you guys identify as MAGA?
No.
Do
No,
any of you guys identify as
Well,
MAGA?
here's my
No
question.
way.
What, can I ask a question?
I've been
What-
a
He seems to
registered
think it's an
independent.
insult.
Yo, that's
I've
what I'm saying.
been
Make America
no.
great again. It shouldn't be enough. If you want to make America great again, I'm all in. Call me MAGA all freaking day. Call it. Yeah.
I'm MAGA.
I'm MAGA.
I'm MAGA. I just want to make America
He
great.
seems to take it as an insult.
No,
That's
I
what
am
it struck
America
me.
first. I'm America first. I voted for Trump in 2016. I voted for
The rest of the crew just jumped out the window and said, of course I'm MAGA. PBD is trying to pretend like he's some type of reasonable. Now, support who you want to support. And being a Republican doesn't necessarily make you a bad guy off the bat. But MAGA only specifies supporting one candidate. It has nothing to do with nothing else. And if those people think you're reasonable, then you're probably not left-wing. And they even try to spin what Stephen A. Smith was even talking about. Stephen A. doesn't want to be perceived as a left-wing personality, voice, potential candidate. He wants to be a moderate Republican. But PBD is making the argument that Democrats should be more like Republicans because they're reasonable.
been a registered independent now for about 17
What
years.
do you think about these tariffs?
No, stay on this topic here with Stephen A. We'll go
what
to
is the
tariffs
topic?
next.
That
We'll go
there's
to
some
we'll go to
guy
no,
from I've never heard of from
Stephen A.
just
Smith.
never
Never
heard
heard
of.
of Stephen A.
Okay.
Smith?
No, the guy who wrote the
thank God.
something
If you
about
didn't hear
him.
Yeah,
Stephen
but
A.
what do you
Smith,
think
I
about
would have a
Stephen A?
meltdown
You know
right
what
now.
he's been talking about lately with the Democratic Party
He's a
having issues.
centrist. I don't have to subscribe to what a centrist perspective. I mean, he's a centrist like Gavin Newsom is a centrist.
Gavin Newsom is
Newsom's
a
a
centrist.
Gavin Newsom is saying the exact same thing as Stephen A. Smith.
How? Because he realizes progressive policies have been a disaster.
Maybe-
Okay, I
maybe
mean,
it's
so
because-
He's a centrist
they
as of
can
a
all
week
have
ago when
each
he
other
realized
as far as I'm
progressiveness is
concerned.
horrible.
Maybe it's
Come on,
because
Sam.
maybe it's like
I
a
just you don't understand. You guys
Welcome
don't seem to
to
understand.
Bizarro world.
I have a set of politics. I don't care what Stephen A. Smith does. I don't care what Gavin Newsom does.
Yeah.
I don't care.
So you're rigid. You're not changing anything.
It's not a question of I'm rigid and I'm not changing anything. Like there are specifics. Like over time, I have had a different perspective on the deficit over the past 20 years and understood it in
But
a
you
different
become
way.
more liberal over the last 20 years. You become more of a leftist and progressive.
You
the
got to
last
be more
20 years.
I would
malleable.
say
You got to be
that
more
to a certain
malleable,
extent,
buddy.
I mean, to the extent, like I don't, you guys have these like labels that you like to use, and there's some
Like
type of
tax
gradation.
avoider, yeah.
But
Labels.
I've
We
always
like
been,
labels like
I've
tax
always been
avoiders.
about where I am in terms of taxation. But I am for a little bit more decommodification probably than I was 20 years
so
ago.
and all I'm saying here before we go, look, I'm going to go to the audience. Audience, we're coming to you here in a second to go through some of the stories here.
Why wait? We're gonna talk about tariffs?
We're going to talk
definitely
about
talk about
whatever stories we go through. But the one thing we did learn here with you is America grew up the last 4 years.
Adam?
Sorry about that.
America grew up the last 4 years. Many Democrats grew up. Every state became more Republican because of the horrible policies on the left. Whether it was how they handled COVID, what they did with our kids, how they handled people that didn't want to take the vaccine, and people were fed up. And they voted for a guy who had already been president for 4 years. So it's not like they said they want something new. They said, no, we want to go back to the guy previous to that guy. That is the biggest black eye to Obama, to Kamala, to Democrats, to everybody on the left, when they went back to the guy that they said they didn't want 4 years later, saying, it's like an ex coming back and saying, babe, I messed up. I should have never gone with the other guy. You were my guy. Or guy, babe, I screwed up. I should have never left you for the other girl. I'm such a dummy. Please, Trump, come back. That's what America did. And a guy like you, who's
I'm
sitting
not a
here
big fan of Obama's, and I'm not a big fan of Harris's either.
But the point is, you still haven't graduated Sanders. That's like 7th grade. The people that follow Sanders and AOC are in 7th grade, 8th grade. Their heroes are in high school. Your philosophies are popular in high schools, not with adults. The policies that you support are
They were
high
not
school
popular
policies.
when I was in high school.
Oh, are you kidding me? Karl Marx was a hero in kids that went to high school because teachers were feeding the Karl Marx stuff.
Well, I went to high school. Ronald Reagan was president. I can assure you that, and the wall still existed, and there was fear of communism, and that socialism was barely ever expressed.
I mean, you're a step away from communism. Like socialism is a step away from communism. That's kind of where you are. You're right there saying, guys, I don't want to fully publicly say I'm a communist. I'll stay in this room.
No, I'm not.
Because
I'm
it's
not,
like
I'm not
MAGA.
even. I don't even
wanna say- I don't
identify
wanna
as a
go-
socialist either. There
You're
are some
progressive,
things,
though.
I would say I'm a progressive. I
So
mean,
what's
90% is
right
socialist.
of progressive? What's left of progressive? I know you're not big on labels, but just humor me. What's right and
I
left
think,
of being a
I'm
progressive?
probably a social democrat. So I would say there is a certain amount of society where I believe we do not need the private market to deliver it and is less efficient. So when it comes to health insurance, we have already in this country 1/3, maybe a little more actually, on some form of government health insurance. The VA is actually government health care. The doctors work for the government. And that is actually gets very, very high
And
marks.
all I hear is good things about the VA.
The VA
everybody
gets
loves the
high
VA.
marks?
No,
The
no,
healthcare does, yeah.
VA Vinny,
time
you
out,
go to the
time
VA.
out.
From who?
That's a 100% false.
From
I
the
get
dead
the
guys.
worst service from the VA. And I'm a veteran and he's a veteran. He doesn't go to the VA. I go to the VA. I called yesterday just to make an example in our work area. I called. Nobody's picking up the phone for me to get an appointment. Zero. And when you go there, it's the most depressing thing.
But the
So
good
trust
news
me.
is when you go to like get your to the DMV, the driver's license, that's great service,
Oh, that's
right?
that's the best. Yeah, that's the
Everyone
best. No,
loves
the
that.
VA. Sam, the VA is
the
not good.
states run the DMVs,
really
but
liking
my
today's
experience at the
podcast.
DMV is not that bad.
You wanna
But
go to
Respectfully,
what's
there's
that?
one
I'm gonna
thing
go
you
to
said.
tariffs.
There's one thing you
What's that?
said.
I'm
You
gonna go
said
to
the
tariffs.
private market is less efficient. We can look at 250 years of government and everything we've got here. I just can't get
What's the
past that. And if
administrative
that's
cost for Medicare?
And if that's your,
What's the administrative cost for Medicare?
Hang on. If that's your one of your foundational beliefs that the private markets will be less efficient, then it's no wonder you're where you are. I'm not going to pick on it. If that's your foundational
What is
belief,
the administrative cost for Medicare?
Tell us.
2 to 3 cents of every dollar in Medicare is spent on administrative costs. In the private health
administrative
insurance,
defined as what? You got to be careful. I got to be careful when I hear things like that because guess what? You go back and you look at, well, I was only counting this.
The rest
I'm
of
not counting this.
I'm going to stop here because they get into the weeds of private health insurance purposefully because they want to deflect from the fact that they think Joe Biden is the left. They think Harris and Obama were the left, as if they didn't spend more money, time, and effort making sure Bernie Sanders didn't get any power. They worked together with Pete Buttigieg and everybody to make sure that Bernie couldn't get any footing at all. Anything that he did get was from the people. And then Bernie disappointingly bent over and didn't get nothing in return for his support of them. These people think that the Democratic Party is the left. If you think Gavin Newsom is any type of left-wing, progressive, whatever, then you're seriously mistaken. He's just as corrupt as Mitch McConnell or any other right-winger. Sam Seder is trying to make a clear line between what he believes, the policies that he supports, and the Democrats that are actually against it, including Stephen A. Smith and Gavin Newsom. But when it all gets lumped into the same party, it seems like everyone supports it, when that's clearly not the truth. That's the failure and the swindle of a two-party system. There's clear differences. The people in power in the Democratic Party are more Republicans than anything else. Even Obama called himself a moderate Republican.
The truth of the matter is that my policies are so mainstream that, you know, if I had said the same policies that I have back in the 1980s, I'd be considered a moderate Republican.
It seems like the people who are Republicans only care about their team. It doesn't matter what they actually support. While Sam Seder's trying to say, hold on, before you just lump everybody who calls himself or finds himself voting for the Democrats all the same, let's pick out specific policy. Do you support tax on the richest people on the highest margin rate? Yes or no? Forget what party you think you claim. What do you actually support policy by policy? That's way more important. But what do you think about all this? If you made it this far, let me know in the comment section, what's your most out there, let's say, political take? Like, for example, Sam Seder believes that the highest marginal rate should be taxed at 90-something percent, 93%. Everything after a couple $1 million. One that I believe in is that all studio apartments should be free of charge. What's yours? Let me know in the comment section. Peace.